Alright, we're going to Velstadt, and this should be pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We have all the tools we need for this, and then some. Start with just toxicking these guys. You can double up with the Dark Fog, poison them just a little bit faster, but it's not really necessary. So we'll let these guys tick down, and then we'll run through and kill the Shield Knight. 5 lightning arrows from the side, it's a very easy kill. Magic arrows would work too. When he's down, we'll come back behind this pillar, snipe the first mage, a couple of headshots with magic arrows. And we'll use lightning arrows for the second. This is probably a good time to talk about the different types of arrows. Okay. First, let's check the Forlorn. Oh, we did get a Forlorn. Okay. So let's get out of here and try this again. We can still talk about the arrows though. So magic arrows are our bread and butter. They have good range and good damage. When in doubt, use magic arrows. Now I could rest for spells, or I could just up an herb. And many herbs pick up. We'll do this again. Lightning arrows have extremely long range, but less elemental damage than the others. 140 versus 160. So we use them for long range sniping or against enemies weak to lightning. Dark arrows have the same base damage as magic arrows, but much less range. So they don't see too much use in the base game, just against enemies weak to dark or resistant to magic, where range isn't a factor. They have a bit more utility in the DLCs, however, because DLC resistances are weird. A base game enemy with all medium tier resistances has 30% negation to all elements. A DLC enemy with all medium tier resistances has 70% lightning negation, 66% magic, and about 60% dark and fire. That's why lightning arrows are even weaker against DLC enemies, and why dark is usually a bit stronger than magic. So we can get a bit more use out of dark arrows in the DLCs, but honestly it's still not a big deal, because most of the DLC enemies that we're actually going to attack will be shooting, we're just going to be yearning past them. For the most part. The ones that we do shoot are either going to be weak to magic or lightning, or else resistant to all the elements. So we don't actually need too many dark arrows in this run. 200 should be plenty. Fun fact though, those bizarre unequal negation numbers we were talking about, they only apply to ranged elemental damage, like arrows or spells. Melee elemental damage is completely different, it only depends on the tier. So that DLC enemy with medium tier lightning, 70%, and medium tier dark, 60% negation, takes exactly the same damage from lightning resin as dark resin. It's weird like that. Anyway, let's buy those dark arrows, and then we'll continue. Let's add dark arrows. 200 should be fine. Free soul on the way out. And then we're going to come over here and do this, clear this area out. In most runs, you clear this area out as an anti-Forlorn strat. In this run, we actually kind of need the loot down here. That shiny down there is a 20k soul and a Simpleton spice. We definitely want those, both of those. And there's a chest up there with a fire seed that we also want. So we're coming this way. On the cat boots, just because that fall doesn't do damage, but some of the other falls coming up will. Just make sure you take out the ghost in the ladder first. It's very important. Or else you'll get ambushed here and you'll have no way out. You'll have to horn out. So, there's our fire seed. And now we are going to the next bonfire. Here's the plan. I'm going to equip the Old Knight Hammer, Flynn's Ring. So we got some damage. I'm going to drop down over here, left of the bonfire. Buff with Dark Weapon. And we'll kill this guy with a single two-handed attack. Boom. That gets us a Soul Vessel, which we kind of want. You can afford to skip one soul vessel, I suppose. We will have one extra by the end. It also gives us a nice 10k soul and a free path to the bonfire. We can reach the bonfire without aggroing any of the enemies in the grave room, which is pretty nice. When you enter this grave room, you start getting a whole bunch of enemies spawning, and they cause some trouble. We're going to put ready the bow and the rapier. We're going to hug this right wall coming out, so that we should only get one hollow spawning. We're going to quickly shoot him before he can ring any bells and cause any problems for us. So now there should be no more enemies in here, though that hollow will respawn if we go back that way. But as long as we stick to this corner, we'll be fine. For this mage up ahead, you can just backstab and then double tap as she's falling, or just buff with dark weapon for a single shot backstab. That's what I'll do. We're gonna sneak behind her. You could also spam some magic arrows at her, get a couple headshots, should be okay. I missed the backstab. Well, that means we get shield back up. The other strat, you can just knock her down and then fog her from over here. That works too. I guess I moved too fast. Down she goes. My bad. That should not be necessary. A single backstab would work. But that's fine. As long as she knocks down, you're okay. Alright, so that was a Twinkling Titanite, also a Bonfire Ascetic, which you might find a use for. And then we're going to check for the next Forlorn. Forlorn Invasion triggers right here. Looks like we are clear. Sweet. So we'll grab a free 10k soul. Get over here. And for these enemies, we're just going to snipe them. Shoot just one of them to start. Doesn't matter what arrows you use. I'm going to prefer lightning to save on some magic arrows. We'll probably have a few extra lightning, more so than magic, by the end of the run. So notice they do almost exactly the same damage. These enemies are weak to lightning and neutral to magic. It just kind of works out that way against base game enemies. That lightning magic arrows have almost identical damage in that scenario. So we snipe them, and we can just run through. We'll grab a free 10k soul on the way out over here. Just don't touch the statue thing there. That could cause ghosts to spawn. That's not fun. And we lower the bridge because we must come back this way later for Vendrick. We don't want to have to deal with the possible Forlorn invasion again, or that Shield Knight hallway. One more word. There's a Dark Knight stone in here. If you infuse your rapier or your hammer or something else with dark, and you don't have a stone anymore, then you probably want to pick that up. Okay. Moving on, we could just run to the fog gate. It's a pretty straightforward strat. But for marathon safety's sake, we're going to clear the bell ringers so that no ghosts spawn, and then we can get a completely free path to the fog gate by luring out these enemies up ahead. Alright, so let's make sure our spells are ready and our rings are ready for the fight. Could use Bright Bug, I'm not going to, we don't need it. And, well, we'll keep the Feline Boots, that's fine. If you plan to use Toxic Mist for this fight, you probably want to move your Pyro Flame to the offhand. I'm probably not going to do it. I think it's generally easier to just use the Rapier. And we'll tag Knight first, and then Dragon Rider. Got him. Lure them way out, up the stairs a little bit. And we can drop behind them and run to the boss. And then we'll fight Velstadt. Should be pretty easy. You could use a lightning resin for this. Velstadt resists dark, so lightning resin would be so much stronger. It's very marginal though, because dark weapon is a little better than a resin would be. But even though the elements are against us, it still kind of works out. but the spell buff is about the same. So we can save the resin. Whoa, dude. I'm not very good against Velstadt, to be honest. I got too used to fighting with range. But he's not very hard. I don't think anyone really needs help from me to beat Velstadt. Alright. Poke him to death. Watch that stamina. We don't need to kill him in phase 1, though it looks like we can. Phase 2 is actually easier because he'll do a jumping back casting attack that puts you easy opportunities to punish. Yeah. We got our souls, got our hood. Alright. The King's Ring, and we are out of here. Not quite done in the crypt yet, though. There's a few more things we want to loot. And do not crush Velstadt's soul. We need that for Sacred Oak. That's what we're going to do next. Okay, so first I'm going to run out here. That shiny, that's a Simpleton spice. We want spices. But before I'll say it again, spices are worth levels, and levels are valuable. So grab the spice, run back, despawn the enemies. And then we can do the same thing to get a free 10k soul out here. Okay, soul. Run back to the bonfire before anything can hurt us. Now let's go get Sacred Oath. Alright. Want to make sure you do this before you start crushing all your souls and accidentally crush Velstadt. That would be bad. Trade for Sacred Oath. This is a pretty nice spell. It gives plus 50 physical damage, same as Flynn's, and it applies to the bow. Downside, it has a pretty short duration, only less than a minute, unless you get more faith, in which case you can get up to 65 seconds, which is still pretty short. And it takes 4 spell slots, which is ridiculous. Anyway, over here we're going to buy Sunlight Blade and Dark Orb. Now I said earlier that we're not going to be using the Sunlight build, and that's still true, but we will get some value out of this when we use a Hex build for Dark Liquor and Ivory King. Alright, so we got our spells. Now let's go get some levels. We got a lot of souls to burn. We kind of just want as much green bar as we can get. For now. So crush some of these. How much can we afford? A lot. I'm going to stop at 40 because I probably have more souls than most people do. I don't want the demo to be over leveled. So 40 green bar, and let's get another faith. This is so we can cast Sacred Oath. It takes 25 faith. So with the Hexer's Hood and the Ring of Prayer, we will be able to cast it. And that reminds me, I forgot something. At Straid. So 40 endurance, 19 faith. Let me revisit Straid for a moment, my bad. I want to pick up the Ring of Knowledge. Now, this is not strictly necessary, you could skip it. It will give us bonus duration on Dark Weapon later, after we respec. Right now we're already at max duration on Dark Weapon, but when we respec we're going to have less int, we're going to lose some duration. This will give us plus 20 seconds, which could be nice. So, you could skip it, up to you, but I think it's useful. Alright, now let's set up for the next split. Oh, I need the ring. We'll talk more about this in the next video. But we're going to Gang Squad. Fogs, Mist, Soul Arrow, and Yearn. That's all. Okay, next split.